Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I got a book review for us today. Just finished David Farland's book one of his trilogy of his series, The Runelords. This is book one entitled The Sum of All Men. Now in this edition, it's not on the cover, which is fine because you figure out kind of quickly if you didn't look elsewhere that the name of the book is The Sum of All Men. And we'll get into the plot here in a bit. The number one, the cover is just beautiful. Look at that artwork. Very classic. Before we get into the plot, let me tell you a little bit about the author, David Farland, or his real name, John David Wolverton. And that's going to be the name that he's going to use for science fiction and Star Wars novels. And David Farland is going to be the pen name, the pseudonym that he uses for his fantasy work. And the reason why he changes is interesting, and we'll get to that in a second. But let me just kind of give you just a general sentence here of sort of the breadth of what Mr. Farland, Mr. Wolverton, John, has done. He passed away in 2022, I believe, kind of unexpectedly from a fall. And so that is pretty, very sad. And he was in the midst of a couple works at the time. Actually, the next book in the Runelords series. I'm not sure if someone's going to pick up the mantle and finish that. If you know, let me know in the comments. I'd love to find out what's going to happen with the series. But John David Wolverton, he was an award-winning international bestseller, over 60 novels that he wrote and published. And he has been published in over 20 languages. So he is a very broad author. He wrote science fiction and fantasy, as I mentioned earlier. Some of the major series that he produced. Of course, he wrote for Star Wars. I believe he wrote over like 20 iterations from novels to children's books for Star Wars. So very prevalent Star Wars writer. His series include The Runelords, Of Mice and Magic, and On My Way to Paradise. So those are kind of his three probably largest fantasy series that he had done. He was a professor at Brigham Young University, BYU, where he mentored and taught a number of future authors. Let me give you a short list here. Brandon Mull, who wrote Fablehaven, Brandon Sanderson, who we know from the Cosmere, Stephanie Meyer, who wrote Twilight. So a number of pretty accomplished people came through his class, his creative writing class at BYU. And now Brandon Sanderson has taken up the mantle as the professor for creative writing at BYU, and really speaks very highly of Dave Wolverton in his classes and when he conveys what he learned from him, as well as what he conveys to current students. He was a judge for a number of writing competitions, and he actually did a little work in Hollywood where he kind of helped greenlight some scripts that he was really passionate about and that he really enjoyed. So he helped some people get out there and follow their dreams in a lot of different ways. He set the Guinness World Record for the largest single author, single book signing. So he had quite a marathon of signing one book in particular. And he has been hailed as the Wizard of Storytelling. And so much praise for the late Dave Wolverton. And let's now get into the plot of the Runelords. So Dave Farland, let me tell you why he changed his name. He wanted something that sounded a little bit more fantasy author-ish. So Farland sounded a little bit more epic fantasy. And when he had the books on the shelf with Wolverton, it would be at the bottom of the book under W. And he wanted something kind of right in the reader's face, so F with Farland. So he kind of had a creative reason for it and a very pragmatic reason for going for a pseudonym. So pretty cool reason why he chose David Farland. But he begins the story really with a massive world, a massive implication to this initial story. What is our main plot? Well, the wicked Wolf Lord Raj Ahten has amassed thousands of endowments, and he is planning to take over the earth. Now, what are endowments? This is the magic system in the Runelords, where a Runelord, who is someone who has amassed a lot of endowments, can use magical bracers. I believe they go around in an individual's chest. They're connected by a chain to another individual, and one individual gives endowments to another. It's a very painful and uncomfortable experience to give an endowment, and it is a very pleasurable experience to receive an endowment. Well, what can you endow to another? You endow what I would kind of call as elements or senses or abilities from one person to another. They're called dedicates to you. And what does it mean? So each person has one endowment of every major sense, be it sight, sound, voice, glamour, brawn, a number of pretty much any noun that you can think of for some type of sense or ability that a human can have, you can endow that to someone else, and then they would double. Or, depending on how many dedicates they have, they could be upwards of dozens. Raj Ahten would have thousands of endowments of different abilities. Number one for him is his voice, or his ability to convince others to obey him. And he uses that to dastardly ends in this story. And so what is sort of his motivation? He wants to control the world. He wants to take over the world. He wants to rule it as its true and rightful master. But because of the incredible amounts of stamina that he has taken, as well as, I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's what you do when you eat food and you can burn it off really, really quickly. You have oh, it's almost there. It's so close. Whatever that is, let me know. Oh man, I'm going to think of this and then I'm going to come back here. So if this cuts, it's because I sat here for a while and thought of it. Metabolism. That's it. Your metabolism. You can endow that to another individual, and he has a lot of metabolism. He has a lot of stamina, meaning that his body is not changing, and the Runelords' bodies don't change actually their DNA or what they are made up of. It actually just has a greater effect on them. So he has a time limit because of the amount of metabolism and the amount of stamina that he's taken. His body is under a lot of pressure and is working extremely fast, meaning that he only has a couple of years, I think it's 3 years, in order to conquer the world, bring the peace and the control that he believes that he can bring to it before he actually dies. Now, what is he motivated to do? He wants to take over the world. But there is a legend that if you take enough endowments, you can actually become the sum of all men. And sure, though you may suffer because you get an injury, your body heals at such a quick and rapid pace that any injury can immediately be undone through healing. So he wants to gain as many endowments as possible so that he can become what's called the sum of all men and be immortal. So he's got a time limit that he's trying to get this world conquered in under 3 years and become the sum of all men so that he can rule for forever and ever. Such a cool idea, such a cool magic system. And what you feel throughout this story is that he is very, very powerful. Almost so much that when I was reading this initially, Farland does a great job initially of giving you a lot of fear of this character, Raj Ahten. And you really think, like, how on earth are the good guys going to win? Because he is so powerful. But the dedicates that give their endowments to, in this case, Raj Ahten, need to be protected. Because if those dedicates are killed or they die, his power will be diminished. There are certain individuals who themselves have many endowments, and those are going to be likely kings or very powerful lords, who that if someone like Raj Ahten can conquer and can take their endowments, they're more than just a normal dedicate. They themselves become what are called vectors, and they have crazy amounts of endowments themselves given to an individual, they, absolutely mushroom in proportions. And so you really want to take care of your vectors. And so Raj Ahten picks up a couple of those throughout the story. And a way that the good guys are going to try to defeat him is, in one way, target his vectors to try to weaken him by major proportions. So who are our good guys? Who are some of our characters in this story? Well, let me talk about the two kings, King Sylvarresta and his longtime friend, King Orden. King Sylvarresta is a very kind, a very noble man, not very respected in his kingdom, but he's really good. And so where another king like King Orden is very kingly, he may not be as beloved, right? But he is the king, and he is okay with his authority. King Sylvarresta is beloved by those who are close to him because they see that he has a good heart and he really wants to do what's best. Orden does as well, but goes about it different ways. And so their friendship really are a good balance. They desire for their children to marry. King Orden's son is Prince Gaborn, and King Sylvarresta's daughter is Princess Ione. And each of them has different endowments. And sort of things take a turn when they are promised to be married. That is about the time that Raj Ahten attacks. Okay, so that sort of brings us to our conflict. And Raj Ahten really goes on a massive invasion of the world. And the kings have to try to amass their soldiers in their castles to try to fight against him. Okay, so that's sort of your plot. That's sort of your setup to the conflict. Let me get into some things that I liked about this, and then let me get into some things that didn't really connect with me as well. What I liked the magic system a lot. I like the idea of endowments, the magical bracers. I like the idea of vectors, where you kind of really want to protect your people. I liked feeling how desperate people, how it became an economy in the world. So, for instance, if you are an aged man, you're a farmer who's worked his whole life, and you're near death maybe, or you're not near death, but you really don't have much of a future. There are a number of kingdoms, princedoms even, where you would sell your endowment to a lord, a Runelord, a king, some lower lord, and as a way to return you giving him your sight, where you would go blind, but let's just say the king would get your sight, so be able to see much, much farther, much better, much clearer. The king then would protect your family, either through payment for your endowment or by taking care, actually providing for your family. So that element of a pragmatic side of this magic system, I thought was really interesting. It sort of made you feel, in ways, how hopeless the situation was for some people who were so desperate for provision that they would sell like an entire sense, which is crazy. There are lesser senses, and then there are higher endowments. Naturally, like sight is going to be a pretty powerful endowment. Hearing is not as serious a matter. Your strength would be a major endowment because you are going to be completely incapacitated. You don't have any strength, right? Probably the most serious one, though, would be your wit, your ability to think. And there are some characters who endow their wit to another and become nothing more than like babbling babies who have no remembrance of anything. That's probably the most serious endowment, and would certainly be a serious endowment to take that from someone else. And so I really liked the magic system. I thought it was creative, I thought it was unique, and it actually made you feel like, wow, this is a commitment if you are going to become a dedicate of someone else. Willingly. By force, you feel it a different way for the individual. I liked Ione's character. She, I thought, was very noble. She wanted to do what's right. She, in ways, is much more prepared for leadership than Prince Gaborn was, though he had skill sets that she did not have. I liked King Orden's character, the king who is powerful, who is comfortable in his authority, and who is going to really be the one who, when other kingdoms are struggling with Raj Ahten invasion, though they may not like him, they recognize he's the guy that's going to defend us. So I liked his character. And I liked feeling afraid of Raj Ahten as a reader. I liked being afraid because this is serious. So I thought he did a good job of really kind of putting me as if I was an individual in this world. This was not my favorite book for a couple of reasons, and maybe you're different. If you've read this book, let me know. Did you connect with it in ways that I did not? And I'm not criticizing the book. I'm just saying I didn't connect with it. Here's some things that I didn't connect with. I didn't feel like I felt strongly for really any of the characters, other than really King Orden and sort of as I continued on, King Sylvarresta. But even then, I didn't feel like I had kind of grown up with these characters. I felt like I was dropped into the story. Bad things are about to happen. These are the good guys. And I kind of felt like that's all the background I got on a lot of these characters. There was some sprinkled of a wife died, hunting trips of yesteryear that people took together. But yeah, I kind of didn't feel for a lot of these characters. And so as the story's progressing, be it good or bad, what happened to them, I really wasn't moved too emotionally. And maybe that's just because I didn't appreciate them the way that they should. Maybe you're different and you really connect with some of these characters. It didn't really work for me, how he presented them. I thought the book itself was probably longer than it needed to be. It continued, like the plot progressed, but I just thought it was longer than it needed to be. That's a small criticism. There are wizards in this story. There are wizards of different elements like earth and water. And they just seem very convenient to me. Like if somebody attacks a castle, well, they can't attack with fire because at some point in their past, a water wizard put a rune on the castle, so no fireworks on this castle. It just kind of seemed like a cool, interesting, but it really wasn't made like a major part of the story. And so when things like that happen, I thought, oh, well, that was pretty convenient for those who were defending this castle. As I mentioned, I struggled to connect with some of the characters. One of the wizard Binisman, he is the Earth wizard who kind of is the one that the Earth has chosen to be almost like the herald. The Earth is personified almost. It has like its own will, its own determination in this story, and is trying to choose the next king. The king of the Earth is what it's called, the Earth King. And so the wizard Binisman is sort of his voice for the Earth. And he sort of bounces in and out of the story. And I felt like when he bounced in the stories, he was very kind of helpful. And other times he just did a lot of talking. So it was kind of like, what do you do again? And can you just stick around and help the good guys? He would just sort of float in and out. So that was something that I thought was a little confusing. The only thing that I did not like, is the fate of King Sylvarresta. I'm not going to share right here the spoiler to tell you exactly what I didn't like. The end of the book, how Sylvarresta's character comes to completion, that's all I'll say about this. I thought David Farland strung us along with this character where I thought we were going to go in one direction, one arc with it, and it was quickly taken away. For good or bad? For bad. I'll just put it that way. So I guess a little spoiler there for you. But that was one thing that I really was like, oh, I felt like you set me up for something that I was looking forward to, and there was something that happened that was like, oh, that was unexpected. That was the only part that I really, really did not like. Let me bring this to a close. I'm going to read book 2. I'm curious to see sort of how the story continues on. The book sort of ends with an ongoing draw, let me put it that way, where everybody takes some licks People, though, each side can probably look at what happened, the final big battle, and say like, oh, I kind of came away, though, with some victories. So both sides can feel good about themselves. Both sides know that there's some things that they need to work on. So I thought that was kind of interesting. What I want to sort of get a little bit more clarity on moving forward is a little bit more alignment of what's going on. A lot of it kind of felt like there's a lot of prophecies. There's a lot of trying to figure out, how do we operate in this world? Is the rune system, is the endowment system bad? Should we objectively reject it for our good characters, but we're going to have to use it because our bad guy is really comfortable using it? So I felt like as I was moving forward with this book, let me contrast it in this sense. I'm reading through the Wheel of Time right now, and at the sort of the end of book 1, The Eye of the World, I felt like there was a completion of the story. Like I felt like my character Rand was ready to take the next step because I had sort of grown with him. I feel like our main character here, Gaborn, Prince Gaborn, he gets developed, but I don't know what it was about it. I didn't connect with him. It just kind of felt like at the end of it, he's ready to take the next step because that's just what the story demanded. I didn't feel during this story. So again, I'm kind of rambling at this point. Let me bring it to a close. I gave it a 3 out of 5 because I thought it did what it wanted to do. I felt like this book wanted to create a large world, create a big plot with big characters, big stakes. And I thought it did that. So I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. It's not like it failed in what it promised to do. I couldn't pull it upwards to a 4, and I certainly couldn't pull it up to a 5 because I just felt like I didn't connect with the characters or the story as much. I'm really hoping moving forward that I do, and I kind of fall in love with some of these because I can see how there's a lot of cool elements in this book. And I look forward to reading book 2, which we got a picture of here, The Brotherhood of the Wolf. So that'll be coming at some point in the future. But have you read the Runelords? What did you think of it? Am I completely off base here where it's like, yeah, you just missed it. You should go back and read it again because I read this thing and I loved it. I felt the highs, I felt the lows. Are you maybe with me a little bit where it just kind of felt a little sterile? And let me know. I didn't dislike my time, and I am excited to see where it goes in the future. But that is my take on David Farland's The Runelords, rated at 3 out of 5, book 1 here, The Sum of All Men. Thanks so much for watching. If you're interested, you can like and subscribe, and we'll continue on with some more book reviews in future videos. But until then, take care and keep enjoying the stories.